The year was 2147, and humanity had long since given up hope of meeting extraterrestrial life. For centuries, scientists scanned the skies with powerful telescopes, listening for signals from distant stars. They sent probes into the void, hoping to find traces of alien civilizations. But nothing came. No messages, no signs of life, just an endless silence that stretched across the universe. That all changed one fateful night. It began as a faint glow on the horizon, so small it could have been mistaken for a trick of the light. But within minutes, the glow grew brighter, spreading across the sky like wildfire. People around the world stopped what they were doing to stare upward, their faces illuminated by the strange radiance. The glow resolved itself into a massive object descending from space, a sleek, shimmering vessel unlike anything Earth had ever seen. Its surface seemed alive, shifting and rippling like liquid silver under the moonlight. The ship didn't attack or make any demands. Instead, it hovered silently above Earth's atmosphere, casting a shadow over entire continents. It was both beautiful and terrifying, a reminder of how small humanity truly was in the vastness of the cosmos. After 3 weeks of tense waiting, during which governments scrambled to prepare for every possible scenario, something finally happened. A smaller craft detached from the mothership and descended toward Earth. Unlike its parent vessel, this one moved with purpose, landing softly on an uninhabited island off the coast of Australia. The impact was gentle enough not to disturb the wildlife, yet loud enough to draw immediate attention from nearby satellite cameras. Within hours, the United Nations assembled a team to investigate. Among them was Captain Elias Drake, a seasoned soldier known for his calm demeanor even in the most chaotic situations. Standing beside him was Dr. Mira Calloway, a brilliant anthropologist who specialized in cross-species communication. Both had spent years preparing for this moment, though neither expected it to come quite so soon or under such mysterious circumstances. When the team arrived at the landing site, they found themselves face to face with 3 humanoid figures stepping out of the craft. At first glance, they appeared female, though their forms were otherworldly. Their skin glowed faintly with intricate patterns that shifted and danced like auroras. Their eyes weren't solid, but instead swirled with colors resembling galaxies, making it impossible to look away. And then there was their laughter, a sound that echoed unnaturally loud, almost musical, yet tinged with mockery. The aliens didn't speak, nor did they respond to the humans' attempts at communication. Instead, they wandered freely around the island, inspecting plants, rocks, and animals with childlike curiosity. Whenever they encountered male members of the human team, however, their amusement became unmistakable. One of them would tilt her head, studying the men as if they were peculiar insects before bursting into peals of laughter. Female researchers, on the other hand, received only curious stares, not ridicule. Elias clenched his fists, trying to suppress his frustration. He wasn't used to being laughed at, especially by beings whose intentions remained unclear. Still, he forced himself to stay calm, reminding himself that aggression wouldn't solve anything. Beside him, Mira scribbled notes furiously, observing every detail of the aliens' behavior. "They're mocking us," Elias muttered under his breath after another round of laughter erupted nearby. "But why?" Mira glanced at him, her expression thoughtful. "Maybe it's not about us personally," she said. "There's something we're missing here, something important." As the days passed, the aliens, dubbed the Lumin by the media, showed no signs of hostility. Yet their laughter lingered in the air, unsettling everyone who heard it. Rumors spread online, ranging from conspiracy theories to wild speculations about the aliens' motives. Some claimed they were gods visiting Earth. Others believed they were invaders hiding their true intentions behind a facade of amusement. Despite the uncertainty, one thing was clear: the Luminae had arrived for a reason. And whatever that reason was, it involved humanity, whether as allies, enemies, or something else entirely. For now, all anyone could do was wait and watch. But Elias couldn't shake the feeling that the aliens' laughter wasn't random. Somewhere beneath their glowing exteriors lay a deeper meaning, one that might change the course of human history forever. The days following the Lumin's arrival were filled with a mix of awe, confusion, and growing frustration. Humanity had finally made contact with an alien species, but instead of meaningful communication or shared knowledge, Earth was met with laughter, mocking, dismissive laughter that seemed directed specifically at its men. Captain Elias Drake stood near the edge of the island's forest, watching as one of the aliens, later identified by Dr. Mira Calloway as Lyra, examined a group of soldiers setting up equipment. Lyra tilted her head curiously, her bioluminescent skin glowing brighter for a moment before she let out another burst of melodic laughter. The sound carried across the clearing, echoing in a way that made it feel almost alive. It wasn't cruel, exactly, but it was undeniably condescending. Elias clenched his jaw, resisting the urge to snap back. He reminded himself that losing his temper wouldn't help. Still, he couldn't ignore the sting of humiliation. These beings had barely said a word since arriving, yet their actions spoke volumes. To them, humanity's men appeared weak, insignificant, even laughable. Mira approached him, her notebook clutched tightly in her hands. She'd been observing the Lumin closely, documenting every interaction. Unlike Elias, she seemed less offended and more intrigued. "You know," she said softly, glancing toward Lyra, "their behavior isn't random. There's a pattern here." "What kind of pattern?" Elias asked, his voice low. "They only laugh when they're looking at male members of our team," Mira replied. "It's consistent. They don't react the same way to women." Elias frowned. "So what does that mean? Are they sexist?" "I don't think so, not in the way we understand it," Mira said thoughtfully. "I suspect their culture values different traits in males than ours does. Maybe they see something lacking in ours, or maybe they just misunderstand us entirely." Before Elias could respond, Lyra suddenly turned her attention to them. Her swirling galaxy-like eyes locked onto Mira, and for a brief moment, the air around them seemed to hum. Then, without warning, Mira gasped, clutching her head, as if struck by a sudden headache. "Dr. Calloway." Elias reached out instinctively, but Mira waved him off. "I'm fine," she said quickly, though her face was pale. She tried to communicate. Telepathically. Elias blinked. "What did she say?" Mira hesitated, trying to process the fragmented images and emotions that had flooded her mind. "It's hard to explain," she admitted, "but I think she views Earth's men as primitive compared to the males of her own species. Strength and aggression aren't valued in their culture, at least not in the way they are here. For them, masculinity is defined by intellect, creativity, and emotional depth." "That's ridiculous," Elias muttered under his breath. "We're not primitive." Mira gave him a sympathetic look. "To them, we might be. Remember, they're judging us based on their standards, not ours." Despite her calm explanation, Elias couldn't shake the feeling of being judged unfairly. He knew Earth's men weren't perfect. They had flaws, biases, and shortcomings like anyone else, but to be laughed at simply because they didn't measure up to some alien ideal felt infuriating. As the team continued their work, the Luminae grew bolder in their antics. They began creating holographic projections of abstract puzzles in games, seemingly inviting humans to participate. At first, no one understood the purpose behind these displays. But when several soldiers failed to solve even the simplest challenges, the aliens' laughter rang out louder than ever. One evening, during a particularly frustrating attempt to decipher one of the puzzles, Private Harris, a young recruit eager to prove himself, threw down his tablet in exasperation. "This is pointless," he exclaimed, glaring at the nearest Luminae. "They're just messing with us." His outburst earned him nothing but more laughter from the aliens, who now gathered around him in a loose circle. Their glowing forms pulsed rhythmically, as if mocking his anger. Harris flushed red, embarrassment mixing with rage. Before he could do anything rash, Ilias stepped forward, placing a firm hand on his shoulder. "Stand down, soldier," Ilias ordered quietly. Turning to the Luminae, he added, "If this is your idea of diplomacy, you're doing a terrible job." To everyone's surprise, the aliens paused. One of them, the tallest, with patterns resembling flowing water, stepped closer to Ilias. Her laughter faded slightly, replaced by an expression that might have been curiosity. For a moment, it seemed as though she was considering his words. But then she smiled, a wide, radiant grin that lit up her entire form, and resumed laughing. The sound echoed through the camp, leaving the humans feeling both small and powerless. Back in their makeshift headquarters, tensions ran high. Some members of the team argued that the Luminae were deliberately provoking them, while others believed the aliens simply didn't understand human emotions. Mira, however, suspected there was more to it than either side realized. "They're testing us," she said during a late-night meeting. "These puzzles," their laughter, "it's all part of some kind of evaluation. And I think it's focused on the men." "Why focus on us?" asked Lieutenant Carter, a grizzled veteran with years of experience under his belt. "What makes us special?" "That's the question, isn't it?" Mira replied. "Maybe they see potential in us, or maybe they're deciding whether we're worth dealing with at all." Her words hung heavy in the air, casting doubt over everyone present. If the Luminae truly were evaluating humanity, failure could mean disaster. Yet success might offer a chance to bridge the gap between two vastly different worlds. As the meeting broke up, Ilias lingered behind, staring at the holographic displays scattered across the room. Each puzzle remained unsolved, each challenge unanswered. Whatever the Luminae wanted, humanity hadn't given it yet, and time was running out. By the third day of the Luminae's stay on Earth, frustration within the human team had reached a boiling point. The aliens' behavior, mocking laughter, cryptic puzzles, and seemingly random tests, was wearing thin on everyone's patience. Captain Elias Drake found himself pacing the perimeter of their camp, his mind racing with questions he couldn't answer. Why were they here? What did they want from humanity? And why were they so focused on Earth's men? Dr. Mira Calloway, on the other hand, remained calm despite the mounting tension. She spent hours observing the Luminae, piecing together fragments of their actions like clues in a mystery. Her theory that the aliens were conducting some kind of evaluation grew stronger with each passing hour. But what exactly were they evaluating? The answer came unexpectedly one evening when Lyra, the most outspoken of the three aliens, approached Ilias directly. Her glowing form shimmered faintly as she moved, her swirling eyes locking onto him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. For a moment, there was silence. Then, without warning, she extended a slender arm toward him. Elias froze, unsure of what to do. Was this another test? Or was she trying to communicate again? Before he could decide, a holographic projection erupted into existence between them, a complex web of symbols, numbers, and shifting patterns that hovered in midair. The image pulsed rhythmically, almost as if it were alive. Mira hurried over, her notebook forgotten in her haste. "She's challenging you," she whispered urgently. "This is a puzzle, or maybe a riddle." "A riddle," Ilias echoed, frowning at the hologram. "What happens if I solve it?" "I don't know," Mira admitted, "but refusing isn't an option. Look at her." Sure enough, Lyra's expression had shifted. Gone was the amused smirk. Instead, she watched Elias intently, her posture rigid with anticipation. Behind her, the other two Luminae stood silently, their glowing forms dimmed slightly as though holding their breath. Elias swallowed hard. He wasn't a scientist or a mathematician. He was a soldier, trained for combat and strategy. Puzzles weren't his strong suit, but backing down now would only confirm the Luminae's low opinion of humanity's men. He couldn't let that happen. "What am I supposed to do?" he asked Mira under his breath. "Just focus," she urged. Try to find connections between the symbols. Think outside the box. Taking a deep breath, Elias stepped closer to the hologram. At first glance, the symbols seemed chaotic, but as he studied them more closely, patterns began to emerge. Some resembled constellations, while others looked like simplified representations of Earth's ecosystems: forests, oceans, deserts. Numbers floated around the edges, counting upward in sequences that didn't quite make sense. Minutes ticked by as Elias wrestled with the problem. Sweat trickled down his temple, and his heart pounded in his chest. Around him, the rest of the team gathered quietly, watching with bated breath. Even the Luminae seemed unusually still, their glowing forms flickering faintly in the twilight. Finally, inspiration struck. Elias remembered something Mira had mentioned earlier about how the aliens valued creativity and foresight. If this really was a test of intellect, then solving it required more than logic. It demanded imagination. "The numbers aren't just counts," he murmured aloud. "They're predictions. They represent changes over time." Mira's eyes widened. "Yes, that makes sense." With renewed determination, Elias began connecting the dots, or rather, the stars. Using the constellation-like symbols as guides, he traced lines between different elements of the ecosystem, predicting how one change might affect another. Forests shrinking led to rising temperatures. Oceans warming caused storms to intensify. Deserts expanding disrupted food chains. Slowly but surely, the pieces fell into place. 10 minutes passed in agonizing silence. Just as Elias was about to give up hope, the hologram shifted. The chaotic web of symbols dissolved, replaced by a single glowing image, a thriving planet teeming with life. A soft hum filled the air, resonating through the clearing like a sigh of approval. For the first time since their arrival, the Luminae stopped laughing. Lyra tilted her head, studying Elias with an unreadable expression. Her bioluminescent skin pulsed gently, casting a warm glow across the ground. Then, without warning, she raised a hand and touched the center of the hologram. It shattered into countless shards of light, vanishing into thin air. "Well done," Mira breathed, breaking the silence. "You solved it." Elias exhaled sharply, feeling both relieved and drained. He turned to face Lyra, expecting mockery or disdain. But instead, he saw something else entirely: respect. The other two Luminae exchanged glances, their amusement replaced by curiosity. One of them stepped forward, extending a delicate hand toward Elias. When he hesitated, Mira nodded encouragingly. "It's okay," she said. "Take it." Reaching out cautiously, Elias grasped the alien's hand. To his surprise, it felt warm and solid, not unlike human flesh. As their fingers touched, a surge of images flooded his mind. Vivid scenes of distant worlds, towering cities made of crystal, and skies filled with multiple suns. It lasted only a few seconds, but when it ended, Elias stumbled back, overwhelmed. "They're sharing memories," Mira explained softly. "It's their way of acknowledging your success." Though no words were spoken, the message was clear. Elias had proven himself worthy, not just as a representative of humanity's men, but as someone capable of understanding and adapting. For the first time, the Luminae's laughter didn't feel mocking. It felt like celebration. As night fell over the island, the mood among the humans shifted subtly. Hope replaced fear. Determination replaced doubt. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they now knew one thing for certain. The Luminae respected strength of mind, as much as physical power. And Elias Drake had shown them that humanity possessed both. The victory was short-lived. While Elias Drake's success in solving Lyra's riddle had earned a flicker of respect from the Luminae, it also sparked widespread debate among humanity. News of the event spread rapidly, thanks to live broadcasts and relentless media coverage. People around the world watched footage of the glowing aliens laughing at Earth's men, followed by Elias's triumphant moment when he silenced them with his intellect. Reactions were mixed. Some hailed Elias as a hero, proof that humanity wasn't as primitive as the Luminae claimed. Others accused the aliens of sexism, sparking protests outside government buildings and calls for immediate retaliation. Social media erupted with hashtags like #AlienBigotry and #HumanityIsNotWeak, while conspiracy theorists speculated that the entire encounter was staged to distract from Earth's problems. Back on the island, tensions simmered within the human team. Lieutenant Carter voiced his frustration during a morning briefing. "These aliens are playing games with us," he growled, pacing the tent where they held their meetings. "They laugh at us 1 minute, then pat us on the back the next. What's their endgame?" Dr. Mira Calloway tried to calm him down. "We don't know enough about their culture yet to judge their actions," she said firmly. "Their laughter might not mean what we think it does. It could be curiosity or even nervousness, not mockery." Carter snorted. "Nervousness. Those things don't look scared of anything." "They're not scared," Mira replied, "but they're cautious. Remember, this is just as strange for them as it is for us. We need to focus on understanding them instead of jumping to conclusions." Elias, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke up. "Mira's right. Whatever they're doing here, they're evaluating us. If we want to earn their trust, or at least figure out why they're here, we have to keep engaging with them." His words carried weight, especially after his recent success. The team agreed to continue working together, though unease lingered beneath the surface. Mira knew that building bridges with the Luminae wouldn't be easy, but she believed it was possible, if only they could find common ground. Over the next few days, interactions between humans and aliens became more frequent and more complex. The Luminae introduced new challenges, each designed to test different aspects of human intelligence and creativity. One involved creating holographic sculptures that represented abstract concepts like hope or unity. Another required solving mathematical equations based on patterns found in nature. Women excelled at these tasks, earning approving nods from the Luminae, while many men struggled, leading to renewed feelings of inadequacy. Through telepathic exchanges, Mira learned more about the Luminae society. She discovered that their civilization was matriarchal, with women holding positions of power. Men, on the other hand, focused on artistic pursuits, philosophy, and caregiving. Physical labor and combat were considered beneath both genders, a stark contrast to Earth's history of war and conquest. "This explains so much," Mira told Elias one evening as they reviewed her notes under the dim glow of lanterns. To them, masculinity isn't about dominance or aggression. It's about nurturing, creativity, and emotional depth. When they see our men acting aggressively or trying to assert authority, it must seem barbaric. Elias frowned, digesting this information. "So they're not laughing because they think we're weak. They're laughing because they don't understand us." "Exactly," Mira said. "And that misunderstanding works both ways. We assume their laughter is meant to insult us, but maybe it's just their way of processing something unfamiliar." Determined to bridge the gap, Elias decided to approach the situation differently. Instead of focusing solely on proving himself through logic and problem-solving, he began showing interest in the Luminae themselves. He asked questions, through gestures and telepathy, about their home planet, their traditions, and their lives. To everyone's surprise, Lyra responded enthusiastically, sharing fragmented memories of towering crystalline cities and vast oceans teeming with bioluminescent life. One evening, Elias even attempted humor. Using crude drawings and exaggerated expressions, he mimicked some of the aliens' earlier antics, pretending to laugh at himself the way they had laughed at the soldiers. At first, Lyra looked confused, but then her lips curled into an amused smile, and she let out a soft chuckle. For the first time, her laughter didn't feel condescending. It felt genuine. Word of Elias's efforts reached the rest of the team, inspiring others to follow suit. Slowly but surely, the dynamic shifted. The Luminae began treating the humans less like subjects of ridicule and more like equals, flawed, perhaps, but capable of growth. Still, lingering doubts remained. Why were the Luminae really here? Were their tests merely academic exercises, or did they serve a deeper purpose? And what would happen if humanity failed to meet their expectations? As the days passed, Mira noticed subtle changes in the aliens' behavior. They seemed increasingly restless, exchanging concerned glances whenever they thought no one was looking. Their glowing patterns grew darker, pulsing erratically as though reflecting inner turmoil. Something was troubling them, but what? It wasn't until the fourth night that the truth began to emerge. Lyra approached Mira and Elias during a quiet moment near the edge of the forest. Her expression was serious, devoid of the playful amusement that had characterized her earlier interactions. Through telepathy, she projected a series of vivid images directly into Mira's mind. Barren landscapes, dying stars, and a massive vessel fleeing a collapsing planet. "They're refugees," Mira whispered, her voice trembling with realization. She turned to Elias, her eyes wide. "Their world is dying. That's why they're here." Elias stared at Lyra, stunned. All this time, he'd assumed the Luminae were explorers or diplomats. But they weren't visitors, they were survivors, desperate for a new home. And suddenly, everything made sense. The tests, the evaluations, the laughter. They weren't mocking humanity. They were deciding whether Earth could coexist with their kind. The question now was whether humanity would welcome them or turn them away. The revelation that the Luminae were refugees fleeing a dying world sent shockwaves through the human team. Dr. Mira Calloway struggled to process the images Lyra had shared with her. Barren wastelands, shattered ecosystems, and cities reduced to ruins. It was clear now why the aliens had come to Earth. Their home planet was beyond saving, and they needed a new place to rebuild their civilization. But this knowledge raised more questions than answers. Why hadn't the Luminae communicated their plight openly? Why had they chosen tests and challenges instead of direct dialogue? And most importantly, what did they intend to do if humanity refused them? Mira relayed the information to Captain Elias Drake and the rest of the team during an emergency meeting under the flickering glow of portable lights. The mood in the tent was tense, heavy with uncertainty. Lieutenant Carter voiced what many were thinking. If their planet is dead, does that mean they're planning to take ours? "It's not that simple," Mira countered. "From what I've gathered, the Luminae value coexistence. They wouldn't just invade or colonize. They'd need to believe we're worthy partners first." "Worthy partners?" Carter scoffed. "They've been laughing at us since day one. Doesn't exactly scream teamwork." Elias intervened before the argument could escalate. "Whether we like it or not, we don't have all the facts yet. We need to figure out their intentions before jumping to conclusions." He turned to Mira. "You said they're evaluating us. Do you think passing these tests will convince them to leave us alone, or make them want to stay?" Mira hesitated. "I'm not sure. But I do know one thing. They respect strength of character. If we can show them that humanity is capable of adapting and cooperating, maybe we can negotiate a compromise." With no better options on the table, the team agreed to continue engaging with the Luminae. But cautiously, everyone understood the stakes. Failure could lead to conflict, while success might open the door to unprecedented cooperation or unwanted consequences. Over the next few days, interactions between humans and aliens grew more intense. The Luminae introduced increasingly complex challenges, each designed to test humanity's ability to solve global problems. One task involved restoring balance to a simulated ecosystem plagued by pollution and overpopulation. Another required designing sustainable energy solutions using limited resources. These weren't just puzzles. They were reflections of real-world crises facing Earth. Elias took charge during these trials, working closely with both Mira and Lyra. Despite their earlier clashes, he found himself forming an unlikely bond with the alien leader. Through telepathic exchanges, he learned more about her motivations and struggles. Lyra admitted that she too doubted whether humanity could rise to the occasion. Her people had faced countless rejections from other civilizations, leaving them wary of trust. "We are not conquerors," Lyra projected into Elias's mind one evening as they stood together overlooking the ocean. "We seek harmony, not domination. Yet harmony cannot be forced. It must be earned." Her words struck a chord with Elias. For the first time, he saw the Lumine not as invaders but as desperate survivors clinging to hope. He realized that their laughter wasn't mockery. It was frustration, born of centuries of rejection and loss. Encouraged by this breakthrough, Elias proposed a bold idea: a joint mission combining human ingenuity with Lumine technology to address Earth's growing climate crisis. If successful, it would demonstrate humanity's potential as allies rather than adversaries. To his surprise, Lyra agreed without hesitation. Together, the two species worked tirelessly to develop a prototype device capable of purifying polluted air and water on a massive scale. The collaboration brought out the best in everyone. Scientists marveled at the Lumine's advanced tools, while the aliens expressed admiration for humanity's determination and resourcefulness. As the project progressed, tensions eased slightly between the groups. Soldiers who had once bristled at the aliens' laughter now found themselves exchanging smiles, or at least nods of acknowledgement. Women researchers formed tentative friendships with the Lumine, sharing stories of resilience and survival. Still, not everyone was convinced. Back on the mainland, protests erupted outside government buildings as news of the joint mission spread. Some hailed it as a step toward interstellar peace. Others feared losing control of their planet entirely. Conspiracy theories ran rampant, fueled by fear of the unknown. Amidst the chaos, Elias and Mira faced mounting pressure to ensure the prototype succeeded. Failure wasn't an option, not when so much depended on its outcome. Finally, after weeks of relentless effort, the device was ready. On a sunny morning, the team gathered near a barren stretch of desert chosen for testing. The prototype, a sleek, glowing orb resembling something between human machinery and alien art, was placed at the center of the site. As the countdown began, anticipation hung thick in the air. When activated, the device emitted a soft hum, its light spreading outward in waves. Within moments, the dry, cracked earth softened, sprouting green shoots that grew into lush grass. Nearby streams, previously choked with pollutants, cleared and filled with sparkling water. Birds returned to the sky, and animals emerged from hiding, drawn by the sudden abundance of life. The transformation was breathtaking and undeniable proof of the Lumine's capabilities. For the first time, the aliens' laughter faded completely, replaced by quiet awe. They watched silently as the humans celebrated, their swirling eyes reflecting wonder rather than ridicule. Yet beneath the surface, doubts lingered. Had humanity truly proven itself, or merely delayed the inevitable? Later that evening, Lyra approached Elias privately. Through telepathy, she revealed another truth. Her people's decision rested not only on humanity's abilities, but also on its willingness to share. Would Earth's leaders agree to cooperate, or view the Lumine as a threat? "It is your choice now," Lyra projected softly. "Will you stand beside us, or against us?" Elias didn't have an answer. Not yet. But one thing was certain. The laughter had ended, but the story was far from over. The success of the prototype device marked a turning point in humanity's relationship with the Lumine. For the first time, Earth's leaders had tangible proof that cooperation with the aliens could yield incredible benefits, not just for their own planet, but potentially for the entire galaxy. Yet despite this breakthrough, skepticism and fear continued to simmer among both governments and ordinary citizens. Back on the mainland, debates raged across news channels, social media platforms, and political arenas. Some hailed the joint mission as a historic achievement, evidence that humanity was ready to step onto the interstellar stage as equals. Others saw it as a dangerous precedent, warning that sharing resources and technology with an alien species might lead to Earth losing its sovereignty, or worse, becoming dependent on the Lumine. Captain Elias Drake found himself at the center of these discussions. His role in solving Lyra's riddle and spearheading the collaboration had made him a symbol of hope for some and a target of criticism for others. Protesters gathered outside military bases, holding signs that read "Earth First" and "No Alien Colonization." Meanwhile, supporters rallied behind him, praising his leadership and diplomacy. Dr. Mira Calloway tried to mediate the growing divide, reminding everyone that the Luminae weren't invaders. They were refugees seeking survival. She gave interviews, wrote articles, and even addressed the United Nations, urging humanity to see the situation through a lens of compassion rather than fear. "They're not asking for charity," Mira explained during one televised speech. "They're offering partnership. Together, we can tackle problems neither of us could solve alone. Climate change, resource scarcity, disease. This isn't about surrendering control. It's about working side by side." Her words resonated with many, but they weren't enough to silence the opposition entirely. Tensions escalated when reports surfaced of energy signatures detected aboard the Luminae mothership, signatures matching those used in terraforming technology. Critics argued that the aliens' true goal wasn't cooperation but colonization, masked under the guise of mutual aid. Faced with mounting pressure, Elias and Mira knew they had to act quickly. They arranged another meeting with Lyra on the island, hoping to clarify the Luminae's intentions once and for all. "What do you want from us?" Elias asked bluntly as he and Mira stood before the glowing alien leader. "Are you here to stay, or just passing through?" Lyra's bioluminescent skin pulsed faintly, reflecting her hesitation. Through telepathy, she projected images into Mira's mind. Vast cities rising from barren landscapes, oceans teeming with life, skies filled with multiple suns. Then came darker visions, a dying planet consumed by environmental collapse, its people fleeing in desperation. "We seek refuge," Lyra admitted. "Our home is lost. But tradition dictates that we may only settle where we are deemed worthy. Your actions thus far have shown promise, but trust must be earned." Elias frowned. "And what happens if we don't earn your trust? Will you leave, or take what you need anyway?" Lyra's expression hardened. "We are not conquerors. If denied, we will depart. But know this, there are others who would not hesitate to claim your world." Her words sent a chill down Elias's spine. He realized then that the Luminae weren't the only players in this cosmic game. Other civilizations might view Earth as ripe for exploitation, and rejecting the Luminae could leave humanity vulnerable to far less benevolent forces. Determined to prevent such an outcome, Elias proposed a bold plan, a global summit bringing together world leaders, scientists, and representatives of the Luminae to discuss terms of coexistence. It was a risky move. Many nations remained wary of alien involvement, but Elias believed transparency was key to building trust. To his surprise, Lyra agreed. "Your willingness to engage speaks volumes," she said. "Perhaps there is hope for harmony after all." The summit took place 2 weeks later in Geneva, Switzerland, drawing unprecedented attention from around the globe. Delegates from every nation sat alongside 3 Luminae delegates, including Lyra, under the watchful eyes of cameras and journalists. The atmosphere was tense, charged with anticipation and uncertainty. Elias opened the proceedings with a heartfelt speech. "Today, we stand at a crossroads," he began. "We can choose fear, or we can choose understanding. The Luminae offer us a chance to grow stronger together, to heal our planet and theirs. Let us seize this opportunity, not out of obligation, but out of shared purpose." His words struck a chord with many attendees. Over the course of several days, heated discussions gave way to cautious optimism as humans and aliens worked together to draft a framework for cooperation. Key points included sharing advanced technologies, establishing protected zones for Luminae settlements, and creating joint task forces to address global challenges. Not everyone was satisfied. Some nations refused to sign the agreement, citing concerns over sovereignty and security. Others demanded stricter oversight to ensure the Luminae wouldn't overstep their bounds. Despite these objections, a majority voted in favor of moving forward. As the summit concluded, Lyra stepped forward to address the assembly. Her voice, projected telepathically into the minds of everyone present, carried a tone of gratitude and resolve. "Your decision honors us," she said. "Together, we shall restore balance to your world and ours. Know this, we come not as rulers but as allies. May our paths intertwine in peace." Applause erupted throughout the hall, though muted murmurs of dissent lingered in the background. For better or worse, humanity had taken its first step toward a new era of interstellar relations. That evening, Elias and Mira stood outside the conference center, watching as the Lumin mothership descended briefly to retrieve soil samples and atmospheric data collected during the summit. The sight filled them with equal parts awe and apprehension. "You think we made the right call?" Elias asked quietly. Mira sighed, gazing up at the shimmering vessel. "Only time will tell. But I believe we've given ourselves, and them, a fighting chance." As the ship ascended back into orbit, leaving behind a trail of glittering light, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that their work was far from over. Trust was fragile, and the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. But for now, humanity had proven itself capable of taking a leap of faith, a small yet significant step toward proving its worth in the eyes of the cosmos. In the weeks following the historic summit, Earth began to change in ways both subtle and profound. The Luminae had officially announced their decision. They would not colonize Earth outright, but instead establish a partnership focused on mutual survival. They offered advanced technology, clean energy solutions, medical advancements, and environmental restoration tools, in exchange for assistance repairing their dying planet. For humanity, this marked the dawn of a new era. Governments scrambled to implement the agreements made during the summit, while scientists worked tirelessly to integrate Luminae innovations into existing systems. Deserts turned green again, oceans regained their vibrancy, and cities grew cleaner and more sustainable. It was as if Earth itself was taking a deep breath after centuries of neglect. Yet not everyone celebrated these changes. Skeptics continued to voice concerns about the long-term implications of welcoming an alien species so deeply into human affairs. Conspiracy theories flourished online, fueled by fear of the unknown. Some argued that the Luminae's generosity came with hidden strings attached, that their partnership might one day evolve into something less benevolent. Despite these doubts, progress marched forward. The first Luminae settlement, a shimmering crystalline structure resembling a cross between a cathedral and a greenhouse, was constructed near the island where they had initially landed. Its design blended seamlessly with the surrounding environment, powered entirely by renewable energy harvested from sunlight and wind. Human representatives visited regularly, learning how to operate and maintain the technology provided by their new allies. Among those who frequented the settlement was Captain Elias Drake. His bond with Lyra had grown stronger since their initial clashes, transforming into a friendship built on mutual respect and shared purpose. Though their cultures were vastly different, they found common ground in their desire to protect and preserve life. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light over the ocean, Elias stood beside Lyra outside the settlement. Her glowing form pulsed gently, reflecting the colors of the sky. For a moment, neither spoke. They simply watched as waves lapped against the shore, creating a rhythm that felt timeless. "Do you ever miss your home?" Elias asked finally, breaking the silence. Lyra tilted her head, considering his question. "Every day," she admitted. "But homes are not places, they are connections. And here, I have begun to forge new ones." Her words struck a chord with Elias. He thought about all he had learned over the past weeks, not just about the Luminae, but about himself and humanity as a whole. Their flaws, their fears, their capacity for growth. It was humbling to realize how much there was still to learn. Before leaving, Lyra extended a slender hand toward Elias, holding out a small crystalline orb no larger than a marble. Its surface shimmered faintly, containing what appeared to be a fragment of her essence, a swirling galaxy trapped within glass. "This is for you," she said through telepathy, her voice soft yet resonant, "a reminder of our journey together and the potential we share." Elias accepted the gift cautiously, feeling its warmth spread through his palm. "Thank you," he murmured. "But why give me this?" "Because trust must flow both ways," Lyra replied. "You have proven yourselves capable of understanding, even when it is difficult. Let this serve as a symbol of that effort." As the days passed, news of the Lumin's departure spread across the globe. Their mothership prepared to leave Earth's orbit, carrying teams of researchers and engineers tasked with restoring their homeworld using knowledge gained from humanity. Before departing, Lyra addressed the United Nations one final time. "Your world has shown great courage," she projected telepathically, her voice echoing in the minds of everyone present. "Together, we have taken the first step toward harmony. But remember, balance is fragile. Protect it wisely." With that, the Lumin boarded their vessel, which ascended silently into the stars. As it disappeared from view, humanity was left to grapple with the implications of what had transpired. Had they truly earned the aliens' trust, or merely delayed judgment? Back on Earth, life slowly returned to normal, but not without lingering questions. Mira Calloway spent countless hours analyzing data collected during the collaboration, searching for clues about the Lumin's true intentions. She remained optimistic, believing that their partnership represented a step toward a brighter future. Elias, meanwhile, kept the crystalline orb close, often gazing at it late at night. The swirling patterns inside seemed alive, shifting and dancing like distant galaxies. One evening, as he held it up to the light, he noticed something peculiar. One constellation within the orb pulsed faintly, almost imperceptibly. Curious, Elias reached for his telescope, aiming it toward the same patch of sky. Through the lens, he saw the constellation flicker, a brief, unnatural pulse that shouldn't exist naturally. His heart raced as realization dawned. The Lumin hadn't left entirely. Somewhere among the stars, they were watching and waiting. Whether their presence was meant as reassurance or warning, Elias couldn't say. But one thing was certain: humanity's story was now intertwined with theirs, bound together by choices made in moments of uncertainty. And somewhere among the constellations, Lyra smiled, knowing the laughter had ended, but the story was far from over. The end.